Hello, and welcome to the Street Crime UK YouTube channel. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Today, we take a look at one of the most controversial crimes to ever take place in the UK, the case of Robin Garbutt. Miss Garbutt's murder was described as brutal and cold-blooded. A shopkeeper who beat his postmistress wife to death at their North Yorkshire village store, then tried to claim intruders were guilty, has now been jailed for life. Robin Garbutt, 45, bludgeoned 40-year-old Diana 3 times over the head as she slept in the living quarters above Melsonby village shop and post office. Mr. Garbutt said an armed robber had made him hand over cash and he had gone upstairs to find his wife dead. At Teesside Crown Court, he was told he must serve a minimum term of 20 years. Justice Openshaw said that Mr. Garbutt had no remorse over his wife, adding that he has always accompanied his lies with sanctimonious lies of his love for her. By their verdict, the jury have exposed this as a pure humbug. This was a brutal, planned, cold-blooded murder of his wife as she lay sleeping in bed. Mr. Garbutt knew his wife Diana had been unfaithful and feared his theft of thousands of pounds from the post office which they ran was about to be discovered. After inflicting the fatal injuries with a metal bar, he then opened the shop as normal, serving about 60 customers before closing again. The jury rejected Mr. Garbutt's story that a man with a gun told him, "Don't do anything stupid, we've got your wife," before robbing him as he worked in the shop on the 23rd of March last year. Mr. Garbutt had then claimed he went upstairs where he found his wife lying dead in bed. His story unravelled after officers delved into the secrets of his seemingly happy marriage. They found the couple had £30,000 in credit card debts, and despite working long hours were making little profit in their business. Police said that Mr. Garbutt's actions had devastated his wife's family and the close-knit community. They were due to go on holiday to the US, and Mr. Garbutt is thought to have feared a relief postmaster would discover the money was missing. Police also found out his wife had become involved with 3 other men. Mr. Garbutt was convicted of murder by the jury of 8 men and 4 women by a majority of 10-2. The panel had been deliberating for nearly 13 hours. During the trial, the court was played Mr. Garbutt's 999 call to police, in which he was crying hysterically and claiming that his wife had been attacked by armed raiders. When paramedics arrived and told him that rigor mortis had already set in, he challenged this, insisting, "She's still warm." Justice Openshaw said that Mr. Garbutt had planned to kill his wife as she slept. He said that there was no struggle, she never awoke. He struck 3 savage blows, smashing her skull and causing her immediate death as clearly as he intended. Mr. Garbutt hid the weapon across the road on a wall and then opened up as normal. The judge added, he feigned cheerfulness as he served customers and he attempted to deceive them that all was well. Speaking after the sentencing, North Yorkshire's Police Detective Superintendent Lewis Rawle, the senior investigating officer, said that Mr. Garbutt was a calculating and deceptive individual. He said his actions that morning not only killed Diana, they also devastated the lives of Diana's family and plunged a small close-knit community into fear. Speaking outside court, Miss Garbutt's mother, Agnes Gaylor, said, "I'm not thinking about Robin now. I'm not going to let Robin enter my head after today." On the day of Robin Garbutt's conviction, the first line of a BBC News article reported, "A shopkeeper who beat his postmistress wife to death at their North Yorkshire village store, then claimed intruders had done it, has been jailed for life." But was this all there was to it? Or is the man who has been locked up ever since serving a sentence for a crime he didn't commit? At the Melsonby post office in North Yorkshire, the till roll for the morning of 23rd of March 2010 shows an almost unbroken stream of transactions. Just a mile or so north of a major junction known as Scotch Corner, the post office was busy with customer after customer from around 5 AM, an hour before sunup. Robin Garbutt served all of them. Over 3 hours and at least 60 transactions later, Robin went back to the living quarters that were above and behind the shop. Not long after, he found his wife, Diana, lying dead on the bed in the spare room. A guilty verdict was handed down by the jury at Teesside Crown Court in April 2011. The jury hadn't been able to reach a unanimous decision, so the judge eventually agreed to accept a majority verdict. Nearly 13 hours into their deliberations, by a 10-2 majority, Mr. Garbutt was convicted of his wife's murder. Now 55 years old, he is serving a minimum of 20 years behind bars at HMP Frankland. Since that morning in March 2010, Mr. Garbutt has maintained his innocence. He has brought an appeal and has twice placed fresh evidence before the Criminal Cases Review Commission, or CCRC, in an effort to have his conviction recognised as a miscarriage of justice. All those attempts have failed. Mr. Garbutt made a 3rd submission to the CCRC based largely on fresh evidence about the murder weapon and DNA found at the scene. The CCRC has power to refer cases back to the Court of Appeal for reconsideration where it believes there is a real possibility that a conviction is unsafe. The Garbutts went to sleep in the spare room on the night of the 22nd of March 2010. Partly packed suitcases taken out in preparation for an upcoming trip to Las Vegas to see Diana's family were spread out on the bed in the master bedroom. As was his habit, every Monday, Robin had gone out on a trip to buy stock for the shop and had brought back fish and chips for dinner. Diana, who was the postmistress, stayed up late doing the post office's accounts and preparing VAT returns. He didn't notice what time she came to bed. At trial, Robin Garbutt claimed that he served customers from early in the morning of the murder just as usual. This was supported by the till roll. One customer, a Mr. Hurd, who was served at around 6:45 AM, said that whilst he was in the shop, he heard a woman's voice calling out for Robin, and Robin replying to her. The prosecution argued that Diana was already dead by this point. Mr. Garbutt was going about his ordinary business serving customer after customer, having killed his wife in the middle of the night. No customer reported noticing anything unusual about his behaviour. Mr. Garbutt recalls going to open the post office's safe at 8:30 when the timer allowed him to do so. Turning around, he says he was confronted by a man in a balaclava holding a gun. "Don't do anything stupid, we've got your wife," they said. This was the second time the post office had been burgled in the space of a couple of years. Another robbery had taken place in 2009, also on a Tuesday. This time after emptying the safe, which contained around £16,000, according to Mr. Garbutt. The burglar left by the back door. Nobody else saw the man in the balaclava. A number of witnesses told police they had seen a blue car driven erratically around by Melonsby on the morning of the murder. CCTV footage also showed a car following Mr. Garbutt in 8 different places in the course of his journeys to pick up stock the night before. That car had been sold by the end of the week. Immediately after the burglar left, Mr. Garbutt says he rushed upstairs to the spare room. Diana was dead. Almost as soon as Mr. Garbutt found her, he called 999. The time of the call was 8:37. The operator told him to get help. He ran to his neighbours, the Dyes, who kept him company until the paramedics arrived. 2 days later, police found a metal bar that they identified as the murder weapon. It was discovered on top of the boundary wall near Nixon's garage, just down the road from the post office. It is thought that whoever killed Diana struck her on the head with it 3 times. Mr. Garbutt was initially treated as a significant witness, but was later charged with murder. No concrete evidence has ever connected him to the crime. No blood was found on his clothing. Forensic evidence did not link him to the metal bar. At trial, however, the prosecution presented a compelling case. This, they said, was a troubled marriage. In the previous few years, Diana had drunkenly kissed another man and had set up an internet dating account. A witness claimed she'd seen Mr. Garbutt walking across the village green the night before the murder, ominously carrying a dark holdall. He had apparently ignored her when she greeted him. But there was no more. The prosecution maintained that Mr. Garbutt was stealing money from the post office. On their case, he feared the consequences of a relief postmaster taking over whilst they were away in Las Vegas, and inevitably stumbling upon discrepancies in the accounts. He had invented the man in the balaclava, there were no eyewitnesses, and he hadn't pressed any of the post office's 4 panic buttons, as he ought to have done if there really had been a robbery. All this was supported by the expert evidence as to the time of the death. Initially, the police and prosecution had suggested that Diana had still been alive at 6:45 AM, but at trial they changed their tune. Rigor mortis and hypostasis in Diana's body apparently suggested that she had been killed sometime before 8:45 AM, but experts found it hard to be more specific. Heavy reliance was placed on one expert's analysis of the contents of her stomach, the partially digested meal of fish and chips, which estimated the time of death as between 2:30 AM and 4:30 AM. This, the prosecution argued, belied Mr. Garbutt's version of events. Since his conviction, revelations about faults in the post office's Horizon computer software have indicated that postmasters and postmistresses were wrongfully prosecuted for theft and fraud. 39 such convictions were referred back to the Court of Appeal by the CCRC. Cases have been brought against them based on Horizon data that erroneously showed long-term cash shortfalls. Financial records from Horizon apparently showed the same pattern in Mr. Garbutt's case, along with other analysis of the Melonsby shop's finances, which shows that it was in healthier state than was made out at trial. The Horizon scandal has brought a key plank of Mr. Garbutt's alleged motive, his fear of the imminent discovery that he was siphoning money from the shop. into a very considerable doubt. Fresh evidence has also undermined the testimony of the eyewitnesses who allegedly encountered Mr. Garbutt on the village green the night before the murder. What's more, the analysis of Diana's stomach contents, which was said to be capable of pinpointing the time of death, has been called into question and challenged on numerous occasions. Mr. Garbutt's latest application to the CCRC largely rests on new evidence related to the police's investigation. Even at the time of Mr. Justice Openshaw's summing up to the jury at trial, he recognised that the police had shown a regrettable lack of professionalism at the crime scene. Lamps that had been knocked over in the course of the struggle were put away in the wardrobe untested. A light brown clump of hair on the pillow next to Diana's body wasn't collected or tested. Diana's hair was dark brown with red highlights, and Robin's was grey. Now, newly discovered unaired footage from Tyne Tees television, filmed after the murder but before the murder weapon was discovered on top of Nixon's garage boundary wall, shows no metal bar where the police allegedly found it. The prosecution had argued at trial that it was unlikely that a fleeing burglar would have left the murder weapon behind, and that Mr. Garbutt himself must have disposed of it there in the middle of the night. New DNA analysis further confuses the picture that the prosecution painted. When it was originally swabbed, the mixture of DNA found on the metal bar belonged to an unknown male and an unidentified policeman, as well as to Diana. Mr. Garbutt's DNA was nowhere to be found. However, recent investigations are said to reveal that the policeman's DNA profile was also found in the area where the bar had struck the pillow next to Diana's body. Analysis suggests that the DNA is likely to have transferred from the bar. Mr. Garbutt's legal team, led by Martin Rackstraw at Russell Cook, therefore believes that this shows there was cross-contamination of evidence at the scene. This could raise questions as to the metal bar's role in the murder, and the police's involvement in its discovery 2 days later. The latest application also emphasises that the analysis of Diana's stomach contents has been discredited. It argues that if the jury had been given reason to doubt that evidence at the time, Mr. Hurd's evidence would have received more emphasis. He said he heard a woman's voice calling from the living quarters at around 6:45, suggesting that she was still alive whilst Mr. Garbutt was serving the morning customers and fortifying his version of events. Mr. Garbutt's case is one of several hundred currently before the CCRC. Very few ultimately succeed in persuading commissioners that they should refer a case to the Court of Appeal. While he waits to hear whether his case will be in that small number, Robin Garbutt continues to serve his life sentence. He is likely to be in his late 60s before his release is even considered. The Robin Garbutt appeal story. This story is the continual work in progress by Robin Garbutt's family that highlights the terrible miscarriage of justice against Robin Garbutt. In it they say, "We want this to open up the public's eyes and minds and show how our police and justice system can wrongfully take 20 years away from a grieving innocent man and a man away from his family. We hope that the facts and details of the case and the comments of family, friends and supporters behind Robin will make you see for yourselves that Robin is innocent and a conviction and sentence of 20 years is both unjust and unsafe. We will continue our fight to clear Robin's name, gain his freedom and most importantly, try to find the real killer of our Diana. In creating this story, we hope we can bring the attention of the public the terrible miscarriage of justice that Robin has suffered. We are hopeful that it will lead to any information coming forward, however small or insignificant, that could help in finding Diana's real killer, proving Robin's innocence, gaining him his freedom, and allowing him back home. The robbery and murder on that fateful day back in March 2010 led to a so-called investigation by North Yorkshire Police, one that was, in our opinion, based on a mixture of actual evidence and on our information and knowledge is now clear was carried out in such a way that has destroyed any confidence we have in the police, CPS and the justice system. We have now lost faith in everything we were meant and brought up to believe in. A family's nightmare. Robin's journey of injustice begins. On March 23, 2010, Sallie, Robin's sister, received the devastating news that her sister-in-law Diana Garbutt had been murdered. Robin was taken to the police station and interviewed as a significant witness, after only hours earlier being robbed at gunpoint and discovering his wife's body in the living quarters above their post office in Melonsby, North Yorkshire. At approximately 10 PM that evening, Robin, who, after spending all day with total strangers and then discovering his wife's body, eventually came home to his family and collapsed in his sister's arms, a totally lost and devastated person. He stayed with them for the next 3 weeks. Police liaison officers visited most days, but with such a close-knit family he was in good hands. During this time, Robin voluntarily spent one full Sunday with the police giving an in-depth interview regarding his and Diana's life together, in case there was something that had been missed in the original interview. After 3 weeks, Their confidence and belief in North Yorkshire police was destroyed when at 7:30 AM there was a knock on the door and the police came to arrest Robin. They then began what has now turned into a nightmare and have now lost all trust and faith in North Yorkshire police. The following is what happened briefly from then until now. Robin is arrested at 7:30 AM at home just after breakfast. He is then taken to North Allerton police station for questioning, and it is only on the third day of questioning that his family were allowed to take him some clothes and see him for a few minutes. They hugged him and cried with him and gave each other hope and strength, and then they left. North Yorkshire police say that they have found a pair of boxer shorts in Robin's outside bin which are soiled and have blood on them. Robin states all along that they are not his, as they are far too big and he has most definitely not soiled himself. The police are not interested. The family found out much later that they are neighbours' boxer shorts that were in fact found in a bin belonging to the neighbour, but it's too late for Robin as he's already being held on remand in Holme House prison. We are all set to start the trial in October 2010, all ready to prove Robin's innocence. At a pre-trial hearing, the prosecutor stands up and informs the court that the NY police have found a hollow iron bar believed to be the murder weapon discarded near to the post office where the murder took place. North Yorkshire police had found this bar on the 25th of March 2010, 2 days after the murder, but only disclosed its existence to us on that day. They also say that forensic scientists did not begin testing the potential evidence until the month before the hearing. No DNA of Robin's is found on or inside the bar, only Diana's, a police officer and one other unidentified male. Robin is given bail, he comes home, and now we have a little hope. The trial begins in March 2011. It takes 4 weeks. The judge, in the family's opinion, from day one, hurried the barristers all the time to get finished for Easter. He started each morning by asking both QCs if they were on schedule and making sure they would be finished on time. At the end of the trial, the judge excused the jury to deliberate, stating that he would only take a unanimous verdict. The jury couldn't do this, so he said he would take a majority decision. After 2.5 days, the jury returned a 10-2 majority against Robin. Nobody could believe this, people were visibly shocked, and then Robin is convicted and sentenced to 20 years. Our QC then finds evidence that the post office had available to them information that they said they couldn't provide. Eventually, we get the information and are granted an appeal hearing. In November, we, the family of Robin, put out a Tyne-Tees news statement and press release, speaking out at last about Robin's injustice. Then the Courts of Appeal in May 2012. We are hopeful that we will get a retrial and Robin will hopefully get justice. No decision on the day, but 1 week later our world collapses once again as they reject Robin's grounds of appeal. We are now fighting on. We hope that you have read our website and digested the information on it and you still want to join us in helping to free Robin Garbutt, find the real killer, and get justice for his beloved Dee. Now we'll look at some of the facts from the case. In a statement, a witness says that at 6:45 AM on the morning in question, he heard a female voice that he concludes was Diana calling through the living quarters Robin's name, and Robin answered, "In a minute, Dee," or "Yes, Dee," along those lines. The police and prosecution claim that Diana was already dead by now. How can that be so? The prosecution asked the witness how he knew it was that morning, and the witness remembers this clearly as it was an unusual day for him, as it was one of the only couple of days in a year that he has a paid day off work, and that he does a volunteer day of work towards the environment. He was so concerned about this, he went to the police when he returned home from work to make them aware of this. If the witness statement is to be accepted, then this proves Robin could not have killed Diana, as the till roll in the shop shows that Robin was serving customers constantly from then until the 999 call was made. The clump of hair is clearly photographed on the pillow next to a bloodied handprint of Diana by the CSI photographer, after being spotted by a CSI officer. This hair, it was said in court by the NY police DNA expert under cross-examination, could have been DNA evidence to prove that there was someone else in the bedroom, and that Robin was telling the truth. This clump of hair was supposedly lost by the NY police, and it was not the colour of Diana's hair or Robin's hair. So we have the murder weapon, an iron bar, that has DNA of Diana on it, on one end, and DNA of a police officer on the other end, and one other unknown male, but no DNA of Robin on it. When the bar was first forensically examined, the police officer's DNA was also classed as an unknown male DNA, and the police forensic expert clearly says that the DNA being on the bar is in keeping with someone not wearing gloves. As soon as it was clear that it was a police officer's DNA on the bar, the forensic expert made an additional statement to say it could have been put on through cross-contamination. Quite alarming how things changed to suit. The bar was found on the 25th of March 2010, only 2 days after the incident, but was not disclosed to the defence until we were in court in October, and because of this, Robin was granted bail. The police officer's statement was made on the 12th of October 2010. The bar was found on the garage wall on the 25th of March 2010. The police officer whose DNA is on the bar says he cannot remember which of his colleagues he was paired with whilst carrying out the search, but he can remember which colleague first found the bar and called him over to it. The police officer can also remember which of his other colleagues was talking to the garage owner, as he was also part of the conversation. So he assumes that there was probably another colleague present while searching, as they always search in pairs, but he cannot recall who that was. The family find it strange that some things can't be recalled. They are certain that they would have known who he would have been working with. The one thing we do know is that the garage owner stated in court that he had never seen the bar before on his premises. He also stated that members of the press were stood on the wall taking photos. There is also unknown male DNA on a pillow in the bedroom where Diana was found. Could this have matched a missing clump of hair? There are bedside lamps which have been placed in a wardrobe within the bedroom where the deceased was found. We believe in our opinion that as no one except the police officers were allowed in the property, and still are not unless accompanied by a police officer, there is only one explanation for this. Upon re-examination, the lamps were found to have blood splatter on them when NY police said that there wasn't any blood splatter anywhere. This came to light when crime scene photographs were sent to an independent expert in London, and the first thing that was asked for was the report of the bedside lamps being checked for blood splatter. A police officer from NY Police at 10:45 AM on Tuesday 22nd of June attended Melonsby Post Office and was met by another officer. His intentions had been to identify and locate the bedside lamps which had been present on the bedside tables within this room at the time of the crime. He became aware the items had been moved from their original locations by officers who were conducting the inventory of the property and premises. The police officers located these lamps in the wardrobes on the top shelf. There were clear glass base lamps in the lower area of the wardrobe, identical also to that which he had seen in the scene photograph occupying tables within the room. He seized them all. Detective Superintendent in charge of the investigation for the first few days of the inquiry says in his written statement that they, the police, failed to locate blood splatter or cast-off. It also became clear in the trial that the carpet at the side of the bed hadn't been checked. How is it that in a murder investigation the police were able to put two lamps with blood splatter on the one of them into a wardrobe away from the scene? In the interview when Robin was first arrested, which we have, the police say to Robin that if the robber had inflicted them injuries on your wife, you would expect that maybe he would have some blood on him, wouldn't you? Causing them injuries. He would have had some blood on him, wouldn't he? Robin says, I don't know. The police say, I'm telling you he would have. It's our opinion from this that whoever has killed Diana would have blood on them. Robin had none. He observed a large area of the bedsheet around the female's head, Diana, which was the colour bright red. He assumed it was blood. The police officer says that given the amount of blood on the bed and around the victim, I would have expected to see Robin covered in blood, but I do not recall seeing any blood on him. It is our opinion from the evidence we have that the North Yorkshire Police totally disregarded the lack of physical evidence in this case and have worked all along to put together a story without any actual proof that Robin was stealing money from the post office. Diana found out and that he killed her. The important thing here is that Diana was in fact the postmistress and knew exactly what was happening in the business, as she also did all the accounts. Family, friends, supporters, comments and quotes. The following are statements from close family, friends and people of Melonsby and supporters, to help give you some idea of the worry, heartache and upset it has caused, and for you to gain insight into the man that's loved by all, Robin Garbutt. Gay Garbutt, Robin's stepmom. Reading this story has been interesting, fascinating and very personal to read. I can't really find the right words, but the messages are all heartfelt and deeply emotional. You present a compelling case for further investigation into the circumstances and causes of Diana's death, and reasons why Robin must be declared innocent, and whatever needs doing must be done to secure his release, and to get that absolute verdict of not guilty, with no shadow of doubt hanging over him, and to live the rest of his life a free man. I have always said, to know Robin is to know his dad, kindness, gentleness, and generosity in abundance. Good-humoured, quietly witty, very intelligent, honourable, considerate, and hard-working. Highly organised, with an amazing talent to solve problems and know how to generally make everything work out and life run smoothly to the benefit of all. Agreeable, affectionate, loyal, and loving. That is how I would describe your dad, and how I would describe Robin. There is no way he could have done this. North Yorkshire Police have got it all wrong. Betty and Malcolm Swan, friends and supporters. We have never met a more loving and caring man than Robin Garbutt. When our dog Gemma was dying, I couldn't get in touch with my family, so Robin left work and took me to the vets. Our lovely dog was put to sleep. The vet said that they would send the bill, but Robin took me and Gemma back to the car and then went and paid the bill so I wouldn't be upset when it arrived. This is the type of man he is. There is no way on earth he could do this to Dee. This is a serious miscarriage of justice. North Yorkshire Police and the jury have got this so wrong. Robin, you are always in our thoughts. Keep fighting. The truth will prevail. All our love, Betty and Malcolm. Joanne Swan, friend and supporter. I have known Robin for 24 years. I've worked with him, lived with him, and was very close to him. I am totally shattered by what has happened to him. His nickname at work was Mr. Wonderful, and he was a totally wonderful person and fantastic boss. He has not a bad bone in his body. He was always happy, caring and loving. In all the years I've known Robin, I've never ever seen him lose his temper or angry. He always left me a Milky Way on my shelf every morning at work. It made my day. A fantastic person and many, many happy memories. Sending my love to you, Robin, and all your family. I am 100% behind you. Stay strong, you are innocent and the truth will come out. Alison Darnley, friend and supporter. I was at Easingwood School with Robin and was horrified when I first heard of this case. The Robin I knew was a gentle, quiet but good fun person. Although it was a long time ago now, I cannot believe that that same person would have carried out this horrendous crime, and I am therefore behind this campaign to prove his innocence. At this stage, I just want to say, please stay strong, Robin, and believe that this nightmare will come to a positive end. With the continued support of your friends and family, I truly hope that you will secure release and be a free man in the not too distant future. Good luck, Robin. I will continue to watch your website with interest. Samantha Wood, niece. My uncle has been part of my life since the start. He was the fun uncle that we got to stay up late with, eat until we were sick and sleep on the sofas. It was great. Rob and my mum are so close and over the years showed me how important it is to look after each other. Myself and my brother are now the same. I can't explain how this nightmare has changed my family, but one thing I can say, we won't be beaten. We will fight until Uncle Rob is back, sat round our dinner table, stuffing his face with Mum's cooking. Uncle Rob is the bravest and kindest man I know, and I gain strength from him to keep going day by day, and keep fighting for his freedom and to find Auntie Dee's killer. Sallie, his sister. My brother who is warm and gentle, honest, genuine, loving and giving. The years of growing up together, only a year and a month between us, and so we have always been close. The years roll on and we stay side by side. If we need one another, we'll know we'll be there. Sometimes it is tested by others around, but I know that deep down, my brother's still there. Nobody knows better than me what's happening. To Rob just should not be. I love him and miss him, but never forget him. One day, we will have him home. Joyce, Robin's mum. My son is a loving, thoughtful, good, honest man, and watching him suffer this terrible miscarriage of justice is heartbreaking, and at times feels unbearable. It's an extremely painful living nightmare, which words cannot describe. However, Robin's bravery and his determination to get justice for his beloved Diana, and himself, keeps me going, though I shall never rest until this cruel injustice is put right and Robin is free. Margaret and James, good friends and supporters from Mellinsby. Robin, we miss you so much, your cheeky comments and of course your loving and caring nature, which goes without saying. My time spent with you and Diana at the shop are moments I will treasure. Most of all, I miss bringing you food parcels when I baked, and passing on recipes to Dee, including my mince pie one. Our love always. Ian Simpson, supporter and good friend from Mellinsby. Calling at the village shop was my ideal start to the day, thanks to Robin's consistent good humour. That man radiates goodwill. But much more than that, he was so ready to answer questions and to share his knowledge and experiences, always accompanied by that unbeatable smile. Irene and Les, family. What a terrible miscarriage of justice. Robin became a much-loved visitor to our family home. Every Saturday was brunch. His nose led him to our kitchen. Bacon, sausage and egg. To have the company of such a kind, polite, amusing person was such a pleasure. We are a retired couple, and the thought of never sharing our table with Robin again doesn't bear thinking about. His place is set. Someone out there knows the truth about what happened that terrible morning. But believe us, we will never give up on the fight to bring about Robin's release. He has our loving support always. Robin now. Robin is now in Franklin Prison in Durham. Robin's kept going by all the support from family, many friends, villagers and supporters. Since being in prison, Robin has received thousands of cards and letters for support, and we thank them all. We visit Robin every week. These are very special times where we give each other the strength to carry on with this terrible injustice. 2021, an update from the family. Another Christmas has passed. Once again, the prison mailbag contained a massive cards and letters of well wishes and never-ending support for Robin, of which he is eternally grateful. Another March has passed with a mixture of over 100 cards and letters of sympathy and support marking the anniversary of Dee's death and the start of the terrible miscarriage of justice. April will mark the 10th anniversary of Robin being held in prison as an innocent man. The CCRC kindly keep agreeing with everything we put to them. They keep saying, let's remove this evidence from the equation, let's remove that from the equation, but still keep making the excuse as to wanting some evidence to prove if someone else could have been in the property on the morning of Dee's death. Well, now we have given them that. So now the CCRC, let's have a fair, just trial and prove Robin Garbutt is innocent. That's all we ask. Thank you for joining us today. What are your opinions on the crimes committed by Robin Garbutt? Do you think he has a chance at his third appeal? Do you think he was innocent or guilty? And what do you think about the mishandling of evidence from the NY police? Please let us know what you think in the comments below. Thank you for joining us today. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and if you're new to the channel and want to see more Street Crime UK content, then hit the subscribe button so you can join us in the next video. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time, stay safe.